Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Creative Collaboration Show. Chuck Anderson here, your host, and this is the show where we help you as a business owner, solopreneur, entrepreneur, coach, consultant, whatever you call yourself, basically experts that are on a big mission to make a big impact with their work and to grow their businesses. And on that journey, you're going to need a few things. There's going to be some obstacles to overcome, and there's going to be some tactics that you need, and there's going to be the big challenge, getting the word out to lots of people so that you can make that big impact. And that's really what today's episode is going to be about. We're going to talk about books. And I know we've talked about this before, but not just a book, but as an expert, really why, as an expert, you should have a book, and why today, especially how things have changed in the last 2 years, that there's never been a better time and there's never been an easier time. So my guest today is Cathy Kaye, and she has helped over 600 best-selling authors get their books out and become best-selling authors. And in fact, as we were talking before this, probably closer to 700. So in other words, she knows what she's talking about in terms of writing the books, getting it out there, and reaching that bestseller status. So Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here as well. And, just sharing with our listeners a little bit on how, that conversation that we had just before we started here in terms of how things have changed. And like I said, we have had the conversation a few times about why it is valuable to have a book, but also things have changed and also things have gotten easier just with all of the AI and the different tools. And I think it continues to evolve. And this is something that you've really been able to use in your business. So we're going to dive deep in all of that today. Cathy, I think a great place to start is, tell a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing this work, and then we'll dive deep into like what people think should be considering and doing as they approach a book today.
Right. Well, a little bit about me. So I started out in web design and online business development in 1997. So over 26 years ago, helping people with their online businesses. And in 2009, I published my first best-selling book, and I'm like, this is fire in marketing. Like, I need all my clients to have books. Like, do you have a book? We need to make it a bestseller. And they all had the same answer. Well, I've been meaning to, haven't gotten around to it yet. So we figured out any way we could to get information out of them to turn it into a book. So sometimes it would be like transcribed interview or their blog posts or keynote speech, anything to turn into a book. And then in 2015, I started teaching my process. Like, okay, I can do this for people, but now if I teach it, can they do it? Started teaching my process on how to write, publish, and market their book to bestseller, guaranteed. I have 100% success rate. Every bestseller that has completed my course is a bestseller. Every one that I've published is a bestseller. And so with nearly 2 decades of experience publishing books, I have a lot of experience in the industry and with what it takes to make a best-selling book, but now put that together with AI and it's like no-brainer. Like, you've got to have a book. If you want to be seen as an authority, you have to have a book.
Yeah, and really anyone in the expert space, if you sell your expertise or your advice or you're teaching a course or whatever it is, a book will open a lot of doors. It gets you on podcasts, it gets you on stages, develops your authority, credibility, all of that. And it's almost like a business card on steroids. Like if you have that book, people will give you that instant, authority, that trust, and you get opportunities just because you have a book. They haven't necessarily read it, but just because you have a book, they give you that. And I think definitely it is a must-have for anyone in the expert space. And so a lot of things have changed. Let's talk about that. But, what thing in terms of some of the people who are coming to you, like where are they at in their journey? Why are they now considering a book? And what are some of the things that they're asking for help with?
So mostly I end up working with coaches or speakers. They've been in an industry for 15 plus years and now they're transitioning to speak publicly or have their own coaching business and expertise. And either they've been in business for a little while and know now that they need to declare themselves as an expert to stand out in the crowd, or they hired a coach early on that said you need to have a book. You need to start with a book so that you can show that you're an expert in your own right. Because it is the number one most impactful thing you can do for your business is to have a best-selling book, period. I've had doctors tell me that the credentials of having a best-selling book did more for them than the credentials of being a doctor ever did. And then from there, they went on to a lot of talk shows and that kind of thing because they love books. They love having that tactile book expert on stage.
It's almost as though when talk shows are booking guests or big conferences and events are looking for speakers, that they're not necessarily out there looking for, well, what experts could we invite? Their search is who has a book on this subject.
Yes, you actually hit it on the head. It's now starting to become an industry standard minimum for some of the bigger stages where they only have best-selling authors. And so I had someone actually come back to me and tell this to me a couple of years ago. He had been trying to get on the stage for years. He's a professional speaker and they wouldn't let him on their stages, but they saw that he published a best-selling book and they invited him. He's like, why now? What's the difference? And they said, we only allow best-selling authors so that we can charge a premium price. And really, because there are so many best-selling authors now, it's a minimum standard among producers when they're looking for guests for television shows and for stages that they look for best-selling authors because it makes them look better. It justifies their ticket price.
Yeah, for sure. And, one thought that I had while you were saying that is, we came across a video not that long ago from a very prominent expert who suggested that more and more people are using ChatGPT and Gemini and other AI tools as their search engine. They're not just going to Google and Googling it. That might be a phrase that really evolves over the next few years. But now, I dare anyone, go try using ChatGPT as a search engine. Just tell it what you're looking for and see what comes up. And, ask who's the foremost expert in, your subject matter. And most of the people that come up in that list are authors. They
Yes.
have books, and that is why they come up. And so you want your name to come up in that search, you probably need to have a book out there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So, as we were talking about before, this whole idea of even approaching writing a book has changed. And I was describing to you about how I wrote one of my first books. And as a trainer, I just recorded it or took a course and transcribed it and edited it. And it worked. We got it out there. It was a lot of work, though. But it's changed a lot, since then, especially in the last 2 years. You want to talk a little bit about how the approach to writing and publishing and marketing a book has changed now that AI has really exploded?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's the good and bad. So I'll first address the bad because I know it's on everybody's mind. It's you just go to ChatGPT and say, write me a book and it will. Yes, there are people who do that and you can tell that quality. And so there's going to be a really big differentiator between those AI generated books that you'll see and people who leverage AI tools to write their own books. Because when you have that human element, it's still your story and your expertise, but ChatGPT or other AI tools like it can help you organize stuff better. In fact, we used to do, like you're talking about, transcribing and taking that word for word and edit it. Now, when you answer ChatGPT, because it can actually interview you, you can answer it and then it will generate in a format that is very readable. Because how we speak is not necessarily exactly how it should be read, right? So it's just mind-blowing how many fun things we can do with it, but you still have to have the expertise. So anyone can go to ChatGPT and say, write me a book, and you have no idea what you're going to get. You can say, edit my work, and you have no idea what you're going to get. But if you take the expertise of an editor who knows to ask for it to not use serial commas or to use the Chicago manual style of editing 13th edition specifically, things like that that only an expert would know, you're going to get a better quality. So you still have to know how to command the technology properly to get a good quality result, but you can get it so much faster. So it's very exciting in my industry.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and like you said, it is definitely more than just going to ChatGPT and saying, write me a book on this subject.
Right.
And, it always tries to grant your wish. So, you say that and it will do it and it will make stuff up and it will be terrible.
Right.
And you'll go, wow, geez, that didn't work. So are there any other, sort of mistakes you are seeing that experts are making when they use ChatGPT and some of the other AI tools that may lead them to believe like, yeah, this doesn't work. Like, I really can't use this to write my book. And I know that you know better because this is your area of expertise. But, I think there's some mistakes that people are making that when they look at it, because I've heard it going, yeah, I can't really do that. It wasn't me. It didn't sound good, and so I don't really see this as an option for me.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that, because that's exactly the problem is people will go and kind of dabble with it and go, oh, this doesn't work. And the truth is that when you work with someone like me or someone in the industry who has expertise, we can say, here's how to command it. Here's how to describe. So for example, with my students, I have them fill out a worksheet of what is their style, what is their cadence, examples of jokes that they tell if they want to be funny in the book, things like that, to where you can educate ChatGPT up front with who you are, what you like. So we do that up front so that it can be you, not be something random. And that's essentially what you're saying is when people go and do that and they say it will like try and grant your wish, and it's going to do that to the best of its very general ability. It doesn't know who you are. Man, woman, child, young, old. It doesn't know anything about you until you tell it. So we have to tell it all these things. And when you work with somebody like me, I know exactly what to tell it. Same thing with graphics. I don't know diddly squat about making graphics with AI because I don't know how to command it properly. But with writing, that's my wheelhouse. I can give you a great prompt so that you get a great result.
And it really does come down to that. I mean, they're now talking about how prompt engineering is going to be like a really important career path for a lot of folks going forward. And, to your point, and we have our own prompts that we use in our business of affiliate marketing that took us a year to dial in. Some of them are like a full page long or longer that really, define all the parameters and exactly what we're looking for. You can't just go and say, write me a book or write me a paragraph, or, you really got to give it some instructions so that, you give good instructions in, you're going to get a good output.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Like in your industry, I wouldn't know all those things to command it. Same thing if you're going to go use it for social media and other things. And so that's the biggest mistake I see people make is that either one, they're just too general and they say, write me a post about something or another, or write me a book about something or another. And it comes back, oh, that doesn't sound like me because you didn't tell it to sound like you. Or on the other end, where they will upload a post, I saw this recently, and say, make me a post about my topic that's like this. That's not genuine. Like having AI and using it ethically has to do with like, I do most of my stuff speaking. Even though I'm in this industry, I don't like typing. So I grab my phone and I'll be like, I'm going to write a post about, and I just babble to ChatGPT. And then I say, okay, organize this, give it bullet points, and make sure to use no more than 7 emojis because it'll go wild.
Yeah, right.
And then it organizes it for me. But it's not going, I don't want to be like someone else. I just want to be the best version of me. And that's the best way to use AI and ChatGPT. Leverage experts. Leverage, all the things to ask it for that. I know to ask for writing. Somebody else knows for social media. Leverage the knowledge that we have, the experience we have to do that. And that's how we're really growing with AI. So whatever you're an expert in, have that knowledge, use it with AI.
Amazing. Well, let's say we have someone listening in right now who is thinking about writing their own book based upon their expertise. Maybe it's something that they've been putting off for a while, and maybe previously it was too difficult. And like I said, it has changed a lot, and it's easier and different than any other time that you looked at it. If you have not looked into it in the last 2 years, even in the last 12 months, it has evolved a lot, and it continues to evolve. And that's why you definitely want to have an expert guiding you. So perhaps now is the time to really go for it and write that first book or their next book. And for me, it would definitely be my next book. And the approach is not the same as it was when I wrote the other two. So can you talk a little bit about what should they be thinking about, considering what are some of the next steps they should be thinking about? So now is the time to give this another look.
Yeah. So I'm going to gift everyone today, including you,
Thanks.
my free workshop that is an example of how we use AI to have ChatGPT interview you, the expert, because you can really have it be so simple as just 1 hour a day, 1 chapter a day, having ChatGPT interview you. Now, you have to create the table of contents. I can guide you with that. You have to know exactly what result you want to get with your book. I can guide you through that. But then when you go to ChatGPT and put all of this in and say, interview me, it's going to then give you a set of questions that you can just answer and have it type for you faster than any little assistant ever could. So yeah, things have changed a lot since the last time you wrote a book. And I heard a little pain in your voice when you said, and it wasn't easy. I won't lie. I mean, writing a book is never going to be just as simple as breathing. But this is the easiest I've ever seen it. If you can answer questions, it will type your answers, your content, your stories for you.
Yeah, and this isn't the transcription method. I mean, this, for almost a decade, we heard of that. It's the method I used for my first 2 publications. And what we discovered is a transcript is not really readable text.
Right.
How I speak, and I've never produced anyone else's book, so I can only assume that, this was either just me or it was everyone, but how I speak is not how people read. And so when it came to do editing, and we didn't have ChatGPT, we couldn't just say, here's the transcript, can you fix this? Which even is a terrible prompt. Don't try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to give it some real parameters here. But back then, we had a human editing it. And I think that, it really pushed them to the limits. Let's put it that way. I don't think they enjoyed the process. And so, yes, there was pain because it was not an easy thing to do. What are you hearing from others that you're working, when they're coming to you? Where are they at? Have they tried and maybe hit a roadblock, or they've tried this and they didn't like it, or what are you hearing from them? What are they experiencing?
Well, I'll tell you, the statistic is this: 81% of people surveyed say they want to write a book. Less than 5% ever do, and I mean that's something like 3.9% actually get published. And there's something like maybe 2% even complete their book. So there's a lot of people who start, or they imagine it and they have it in their head, but they never seem to get around to getting it done. They plan on it, haven't gotten around to it yet. That's the number one thing I hear. And they have some sort of reason. It's time, or English is not their first language, or they're worried about what people will think, or they're not a professional writer, or all these things. And my system has always worked well for those people, but even better now with AI because it takes it to a whole new level. Even before, we used to do exactly like you're talking about, transcribing and having it edited. And the worse the interview was, just the speaking method, the farther off it was from readable, the harder it was to edit. But now with ChatGPT, I can take something like that, upload it to ChatGPT, and it makes it very readable. Like just instantly makes it flow well in the way that we should be reading it rather than hearing it. It's just different. The cadence, the way we speak, and how we write is different.
And would you still have a human editor go over it afterwards? Because, I mean, traditional publishing, usually there is an editor who will say yes to this, no to that, and all of the things. But do you still do that, or has it gotten to the point where you can just trust it and put it out there?
So I love editors. So I look at editors a little differently. Most industry standards look at editors as the ultimate authority. I don't. I see the author as the ultimate authority because they know their material better than anyone. So be careful not to give over all of your power to an editor. But I'm a firm believer that it needs to go past a set of human eyes before it goes out to the public for print. Because now they don't have to worry about where are the commas and is this a run-on sentence? Yay. But we still need to know, does it read well for a human? Is it understandable? Is the story missing anything? Does it flow? Did I get the result that I wanted for the human? So yeah, it still needs to go past a set of editors' eyes, but it's much cheaper and faster turnaround because most of the work is done.
Yeah, they're not really changing a whole lot of things. They're just making sure that the output is publish ready.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I sure wish it was like that the first time I did it. And so this sounds great. Now, you mentioned your workshop. If you're listening to this on YouTube or the video, just look right beneath this video, and there's a link to Cathy's workshop right there. And if you're on podcast, just go on your phone, and in the player there in the show notes, all the links are there. So tell everybody, what's the title of your workshop, and what could they expect? What are they going to leave with? What is the new understanding, or the new, what's possible as a result of attending?
AI bestseller formula is the title of the workshop. It's my newest version of the workshop. Now, I used to teach this with just the standard, what is your outline? What are you writing about? But now I've added the AI component where I show an example of not only now do you know what you're going to write, because that has to come from like personal within, but now how to then input it into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT interview you. I give you the most basic prompts to be able to have it do that for you. So that way you can speak all your answers and have it type it up for you.
Amazing. Well, I'll be there. And so look right beneath this video for the link, again, in the podcast show notes, and, go take Cathy up on this. This is something that is very relevant now. And if this is your first book, good for you. You're going to take the easiest way that there's ever been. And if this is your second or next book, don't assume that this next one is going to be done the same way that you did your previous book. Things have changed, and you want to go and learn what has changed before you start approaching this next book. And you're going to just have such a more easier time with the whole thing. So, Cathy, that is absolutely amazing. And, we call this the Creative Collaboration Show because, we like to have guests that we think are good people to collaborate with. And, a lot of people identify as solopreneurs or self-made, this or that. And I suggest that nobody is really solo, and nothing that really is ever, any achievement that's really significant is never done alone. And it is so much faster and easier when you just find somebody to work with or to show you the way. And so thank you. Fits perfectly with what the whole idea of this show is all about. Now, we're almost out of time, but before you go, so much of building a business is obviously getting the word out there, being visible, and, a book can certainly do that. What books can also do is teach us how to be better at being us, how better business owners, better humans, more productive, etc. And I always say that, your business can only grow to the extent that you grow yourself. And for me, it has been a 30 plus year journey of personal growth, self-development. I certainly have my favorite books that have helped me along that journey. But I asked this of all my guests, and so I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you could choose just one, and I know there's many,
Okay.
just one book as a must-read that has been huge impact on your journey, or one that you just highly recommend that people check out and read and follow the advice of, what one book would you recommend? And I know that's hard because you've even helped publish like almost 700 books.
It is hard. It's really hard. And I'm a firm believer in that as well, that working with people and self-development, like everything you've said, ding, 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 100% I agree with. And if I have to choose just one book that's like probably the most impactful, I would say is Atomic Habits. Because no matter what you learn, how do you implement it? And Atomic Habits will help you implement any new habit. So you can go learn things, but until you actually apply it, it's not going to work. I can give you a list of books to learn things to do differently, but how do you apply it? Atomic Habits. Number one.
Yeah, Atomic Habits is really good. I really enjoy it. I listen to it on audiobook, which is how I consume books now. And I really like his approach to it.
Oh, yeah.
And the word atomic, you can interpret it any way you want, but it's really, habits that kind of like really supercharge your results and get you results a lot faster. I remember one of the very first books that I read along the habits was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Which is great. Like, it's a philosophy. It's kind of like, how to approach life, how to approach business, all of that. But Atomic Habits isn't that. It's really Atomic Habits for me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Atomic Habits for me was really about like what habits will get you to your end result or your desired outcome or to your goal a lot faster than, not doing those habits or winging it or whatever the opposite of that is.
Yeah. Well, it has several really good points in it. That being one of them, which is similar to 7 Habits, where you pick your big rocks, the ones that are the most impactful that you need to do first, or that one thing that if you get it done every day is going to impact your life the most. That's true. That's in there. Now, for me, the thing that I found most helpful was, how do you implement a habit that's difficult? You know it's impactful. You know you need change, but we resist it. It's in our human nature. We do that. And sometimes it's something really difficult to do. And so how do you implement that? And the thing that I love that I use to this day is I tie it to something that I already do that I love. So for example, every morning I have coffee. I enjoy my coffee. It's a habit I already have. How do I implement the new habit of exercise? I tie it to my coffee. I don't get my coffee until I get my exercise done. So it's tied to something I already enjoy. It's tied to something I already do out of habit, but it's implementing a new thing that is easily put off. So that's one of the reasons I really like it so much. It implements something new.
I really appreciate what you just said, and I friggin' love my morning coffee, and I'm going to try that. Attaching a habit to that where I don't get to have the coffee until I do that habit. That's a really good takeaway. That's a really good idea. And, that thing, make it something that's really going to move the needle for you personally or professionally, right? What is that thing? And I like that. Don't make it an easy habit. Make it the hard one.
Right. It should be the number one most impactful thing you can do that you find difficult. Attach it to something you do easily that you enjoy. So if you're one of those people that you always have like a little dessert at night, like my daughter, she attaches things to that. That's her dessert reward. She watches video games and has her little dessert after she's done her homework, after she's done that extra thing that she was going to get done. So
amazing. Well, Cathy, thank you so much for that insight and just for everything that you shared with us here today. I mean, takeaway for me is that, publishing a nonfiction book on our expertise there's never been a better time, and there's never been an easier time to do that. And I'm definitely going to be following your approach here for my next book, and I plan to be at your workshop. And I encourage everyone else listening in, look beneath this video, look into the podcast player. It's free, so you should just go and do it. Like, there's really no reason not to register for Cathy's workshop. So again, thank you, Cathy, and thank you to our guests and listeners here as well. So Cathy, if there was just one final piece of advice or words of wisdom that you would leave our audience here with today, what would you leave them?
Writing a best-selling book is the number one most impactful thing you can do for your business, period. You can turn it into an online course. You can be seen as an instant expert. It is the number one thing that you can do to have impact on your business. And now it's easier than ever.
What a great way to end this episode, and a great capper on everything that we talked about here today. And now over to you, the listener. I would like this time to be time well spent and to really mean something for you. So perhaps there was something that you heard us talk about today that reminded you of, oh yeah, I got to go do that thing, or yeah, I really want to do this. I want you to take whatever that is, and maybe it is to attend the workshop or take the next step towards writing your book. And I want you to take that action step today. Do it today. You don't need to see how the whole thing plays out. Just take the next step. And when you do that, the next step will be revealed to you, and just keep moving forward. And this is what we tell people all the time. So remember, wherever you're at in your journey with your business and making that big impact that that your product and your service can make on the world. You might just be one collaboration away from that big breakthrough that you need to go from here to here in your business. And remember, there's no obstacle too big or too small to overcome. And so look for someone to collaborate with to help guide you along the way. Remember, keep moving forward, and we will see you on the next one, everybody. Thank you.